I'm so sorry, Ms. Porter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about chronic absenteeism and share a couple things and ask some questions. First, I want to share with you that as a parent of 3 kids, and California, as you may know, has very aggressive absenteeism laws. I have seen that persistent, frank communication that you call for, Dr. Malkus, coming from my kids' schools. When they have been sick and I haven't gotten them called in till the next day, they have been in touch. When my daughter missed 4 days because she was sick, her teacher called to check in on her and find out if he needed to send home a learning packet. So I do think we are seeing schools start to really own this issue, and I think we should encourage that. But I wanted to share with you that I think some of that is happening, and I do think that's something, particularly for lower achieving districts, that we want to be encouraging. One of the things I really appreciated about your testimony, Dr. Malkus, and I think it goes to the point that Ms. Fort just made, is you say things like, you know, some of the most resource intensive and most expensive strategies work the best. And I think Ms. Fort points to targeted intensive tutoring, these kinds of high dosage tutoring programs, and expanded learning time. And so I just want to ask you, those things take money, right?
They do.
And some of that money will, as she points out, go to labor costs. You'd agree with her?
I would.
So do we have enough resources pointed toward addressing, closing the pandemic learning gap, and toward addressing the learning loss that comes from absenteeism?
You know, it's going to depend. Those funds are district to district. We really don't know how much each district has spent. It looks at last estimate, and there's some time lag in this reporting, but $50 billion unspent, pretty late in the game. We will need to have funds to do these things. There's no doubt about it. But I do want to make the distinction here that we should be careful to look at the chronic absenteeism problem as if it's a problem that we can fix with simple, narrow policies. What we're seeing is every demographic group is 75 to 80% up. I mean, across the board. It is a widespread cultural change, and you don't have to be a social scientist to figure out why, right? We missed a lot of school, there was a lot of disruptions, and people are out of the rhythms of going back to school. So I really think it's important for us to recognize this as, we need to fight this as, yes, bring the policy game, but this is a cultural fight. And if we can't reset school cultures, and it's not just poor schools, I mean, it's there, but high achieving, relatively well-off schools, they're up 80% too. So I really think that this is a cultural problem, and I want to encourage leadership up and down the board to approach it as such.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to share with you, I think my school has done exactly that, and I have noticed a marked thing. One of the things, I'll be honest with you, that has caused my kids to miss a frustrating amount of school for me as a parent this year is they've been sick a lot. And I think that we've had a rough kind of flu, winter, cold season, and so I have called them, they've just been sick. And one of the things that I think is hard to balance when you're pushing kids and parents to come and turning up that kind of heat, which is important to have that standard, is I have to argue to keep my sick kids home because they say I'll get in trouble if I'm not there. And so I think we have to walk that line. In terms of these programs, Ms. Ford, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about a few of these that are working, like the Virginia high-dosage tutoring program, particularly the Colorado AmeriCorps program on encouraging partnering with families whose kids are not coming to school to get them more engaged. And then I think, I just posit to the chairwoman, with the remaining ESSER dollars, and if we do reauthorize it, I think you all have given us some programs to focus it on. And I think it is appropriate that if we reauthorize any money, we focus it on these programs that are working and are being deployed in states. So I wonder if you could say a little more about them.
Yeah, there's many shining examples that I did have in my written testimony that either from having small tutoring groups of 3 to 4 students with one teacher 3 to 4 times a week, like they're doing in Tennessee, to the program that you mentioned in Colorado. And people are finding different ways to provide these small learning groups, whether it's with the teachers, the certified teachers, or whether it's with the AmeriCorps or a college student, or whether it's with grandparents. And I think that's the way that people should be looking at it, just making sure that there's a responsible adult involved in the learning process, in that the actual curriculum is aligned with what the child is learning in school. Other funds are being used for after-school programs that are done with a community-based program. Other programs are about professional learning opportunities. But I will say that when we are talking about accelerating learning, the intensive tutoring and the extended day is where the research points us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope we can work on really focusing some, if there is additional funding, focusing on these proven interventions. I do think, and I want to thank the chairwoman for pointing to this issue, we need to treat this like the real educational crisis it is. The learning recovery is the lack of learning recovery from the pandemic is real, and we don't get anywhere by pretending otherwise.
Thank you. The chair now